and welcome to Let's Talk Diz, a show that gives you everything you need to know to help make your Disney vacation as magical as can be in just about 20 minutes. I'm your host, Jeff Goviello. With me each week is Disney Master Sandy from Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services. Sandy, how are you this week?
I am still a little bit in recovery mode. As we mentioned last week when we talked about Easter, I am coming off an absolutely and literally wild March. I was in the Amazon and then in the Galapagos. And so tonight, still sounding maybe like Kermit's cousin, getting a little better.
A little better.
I'm going to talk to you about Adventures by Disney Amazon Escape.
Well, I mean, just that's a mouthful, but it also is just a significant itinerary. So we've talked a little bit about adventures on many, many shows. So give us a quick overview of what this particular adventure is.
You know, and I will say, not only have we talked about it on many shows, Jeff, but you can all go way back in just the double digits to episode 30 was our All About Adventures by Disney.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to talk about this adventure and that it's really not your typical Adventure by Disney experience.
Okay.
So it's good to kind of listen to that, know what all adventures are, and then hear some of the things that I'm talking about.
Okay, cool.
This one is considered a short escape. So we have adventures that are typically 7 days all the way up to 12 days. And usually their short escapes are 2 or 3 nights for the weekend. But this is the longest one that they offer. It is 5 nights. And to confuse things even more, this one happens on a river cruise ship. But it is not considered a river cruise.
So it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, but it's not a duck is what you're trying to tell me.
It is not a duck, which changes so many things, which is why I say it's complex. It's not your typical. It's extremely active on the one hand, yet extremely mellow on the other. It's a real interesting experience. I'm glad I did it. I'm not running back to the Amazon, I'll be honest. And it's not just because of some of these great bites up and down my arms and legs. Pack extra spray and use it all day, every day. Don't believe they can't get you.
Well, you said it's like a river cruise, but not so. Like, where is the boat? Where is it going?
So it is a small river cruise ship. We're cruising down the Napo River in Ecuador.
Okay.
It's not like the big river cruise ships that I've talked about over in Europe.
Right.
This ship actually is 4 very small decks, just 18 staterooms.
Oh, okay. So it's significantly small. I mean, that's
significantly smaller. A max of about 40 people on board, or I should say 40 guests on board. And one of the other unique things is it really never docks. There are no docks along the Napo River.
Huh.
We often floated and got off and on boats that pulled right up to us. We did tender. We didn't even anchor. There's not really an anchor. I stayed on the ship one afternoon instead of going off on an excursion that I knew was just going to be a lot for me. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, we're really drifting to the side. And I'm sitting in the front of the boat with a friend of mine that was on board. And all of a sudden, we both screamed because we thought this big snake was coming up right in front of our boat. But it was really just this single rope line that they used to tether us.
Wow.
Because we were on deck 2 and they throw the rope from under us on deck 1. So it kind of slithered up like it was coming out of the water. And they tied it around. They jumped off the boat, looked at all the trees, shook it, found the one they felt was sturdy and tied it off. And that's where we sat for about an hour and a half.
It's not quite the backside of water, but it's legitimately the Jungle Cruise is what you're getting.
It is legitimately the Jungle Cruise.
That's fun. That's great. Dwayne Johnson not included. So
you'll hear it tonight. I mean, it is like nothing I ever experienced before.
All right,
It
so
is not your high-end luxury tour. It was unique and amazing. And again, I want to remind myself and our listeners, I'm a little bit of a spoiled American. I am a very lucky traveler.
oh, look at that. Look at that.
But there are parts of the world that we travel to where I have said, like, I don't want to go back to anywhere where we can't flush toilet paper.
Got it.
That's no, now, luckily, this ship was equipped so you could, but there are a lot of places in South and Central America that luxury for them, which this ship was, I want to be clear, is so far from luxury in America. So
Well,
I think that's important for people to remember.
yes, and that's why I think you say it's not your typical adventure. So let's get us started though. Like how do we even get to where you need to be in order to
And,
begin the adventure? Because that's
and
that's
that
got to
is
be an
one of the
adventure by
other
itself.
unique things. The ship, again, doesn't dock, so you can't go to the ship like you arrive at a river cruise and, everybody shows up whenever they want.
Right.
And I think that's part of why this adventure is longer. Um, it literally was the trains, planes, and automobiles. You fly into the Quito airport in Ecuador, and the first night of your adventure, unless you happen to make friends on your flight, which many of us did, or in the hotel lobby, there is no activity. It is, you need to get to the Quito airport, and your first night at the Wyndham Quito Airport Hotel is included, so that the next morning, bright and early, you can go back to the Quito airport to fly to get closer to your ship.
Got it.
Um,
So it's
and I
not.
want to
Yeah.
draw a real picture of the Quito airport area for you.
Okay.
Quito as a city offers a lot of things. Great historical tours, horseback riding tours, cultural, historical. There is a lot to do in Quito City Center.
Okay.
However, Quito Airport, thereby the Wyndham Quito Airport Hotel, and Quito City Center, depending on the day and the driver, 35 to 45 minutes apart. So if you're adding pre-nights besides that one night, I encourage you, talk to a travel specialist. 3 nights at the Quito airport is not going to be a win for you. You're going to be nowhere near anything. And while the Wyndham is the Wyndham Quito airport again, it is not attached to the airport. It is a massive 2.5-minute shuttle ride away. And it does have a restaurant. Breakfast is included. It has plenty of chairs and an area to relax in the lobby. It has a heated pool to die for with about 6 chairs around the pool. But they don't even have a gift shop, in emergency, I didn't remember bug spray or I need Tylenol. You need to take the airport shuttle back to the airport, and across the street from the airport. And when I say across the street, again, if you're from the Northeast like I am and you're thinking of Newark Airport, Boston, any of the DCs, get that out of your mind. Across the street is, a 2-lane roadway in front of the airport,
Got it.
is the Quito Shopping Center. It's 4 stories. One is offices. One is about 7 fast food restaurants. One has about 6 souvenir shops. And one floor has the pharmacy that's got everything and anything you ever wanted, and an airport lounge that you can pay to stay in, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. So prepare yourselves.
So, but that's day one. So it sounds like the adventure really begins on day two. That day one is not really a part of what you've got going on here.
It does, and it starts bright and early, and it starts like most adventures when you're moving around with Tinkerbell collecting your luggage just outside your door, which means luggage pull is generally very early in the 5:45, 6:15 range.
Okay.
It's early.
Yeah.
So, that's why I encourage people to think about, who are you traveling? What are your days going to look like? Even as an adult, if you're not a morning person, this isn't for you. Do not take this adventure, because this is not your only early day. We'll hop on the bus, make that big, 3-minute ride back over, check in our luggage. Sadly, since COVID and other security things in many countries, Disney can't check in our luggage for us in most places. So they will be with you and help you through. They are pretty strict in asking that you stick to one suitcase under 50 pounds and one carry-on. I do say the nice thing, most places besides the US, is when you are taking an internal flight, not leaving the country, they allow you liquids, so your morning coffee can go with you, which is wonderful, or your morning Diet Coke in my case.
I was going to say, yes.
Head through the Quito airport. Again, small airports with internal country flights. It is not unusual when you get your boarding pass that you have no gate number yet. They haven't figured it out.
Got it.
Hang out in the airport. There's plenty of places to shop and eat. And then take your flight over to the city of Coco. Get off the flight, grab your bags, hop on 2 different buses that are limited to Adventures by Disney. Take a ride through the city. I encourage you, keep your eyes open and looking around. Amazing to watch what city life is. I mean, Coco is their happening city. It's a Philadelphia, it's a New York. And I'm watching bicycles with those big square containers up front filled with vegetables that are roaming grocery stores, just to see how other cities live. We'll run into the office of our ship. There they've got water for us, bathrooms, snacks, and they give us a little idea, because now when we're done there, we're going to head across the street. They were busy boarding our luggage onto what is called a motorized canoe. The most inaccurate name for something I've ever seen.
Okay.
Again, it held my luggage, let's
Sure.
be honest.
Yeah.
The motorized canoes were one of my favorite parts of this trip, I will be honest and say that.
Why is that?
They are extremely long boats with an aisle down the middle and one chair bolted into the side of the boat on each side, where it doesn't have the leg on the side of the boat. I mean, it literally looks like they pulled apart, dining room chairs and
Okay.
bolted them in.
Sure.
But we had, 22 people per canoe, and it just does go at a really high speed. They had told us, like, go to the bathroom, grab your snack, take a water, but don't drink too much of it, because we've got, depending on the tide, an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half ride.
Okay.
So we're not talking something insignificant.
No, not at all.
The first 5 minutes, again, you're in the major city. You're seeing a suspension bridge with amazing architecture and incredible buildings. And about 8 minutes in, there is nothing on either side but
Wow.
vegetation.
Wow. Okay.
It is covered, so you're not getting the sun in your face. You're not getting rain when it did rain, unless it hit you from the side. And after about 25 minutes, I just hit a great state of zen. You could really take in the whooshing water, because we did, create quite a current. It was, whipping up from our boat. Our 2 boats, as I said, it took 2 boats for us, did not travel right next to each other or right behind, because of the current and the amount of water from it. Every once in a while, you'd look to the side and you'd see a village. And you all can't see me doing my air quotes. A village might have meant 3 tents with a tarp. It might have meant a lean-to with 2 sides. Occasionally it meant 2 or 3 single-story looking buildings, mostly with windows, but nothing in them, no glass, no plastic.
Sure.
You really got to kind of take things in. We could, as we were a little over an hour down, see our boat waiting for us. We pull up alongside. They graciously help those of you who need an extra hand. We did have to wear, by the way, life jackets the whole way, but they're made to be worn for that long, so they're much more comfortable than what you might think of, like if you put on the Disney Cruise Line lifeboat a lifeboat jacket for
Yeah.
a drill. These you can easily sit in for well over an hour.
Yeah, they weren't water skiing vests.
Yeah.
Got it.
Climb up onto our boat where they welcomed us with, fresh scented hand towels, cold drinks that were fruit flavored, and we all got to head up for a quick briefing and an emergency muster and some information on how to access our room. Every room was given a unique code, so you didn't even need a key. It was great. And the ship itself had a very zen feeling since it was so intimate.
I mean, it sounds awesome. It sounds like such a cool way of vacationing.
It really set the mood.
Yeah.
We did dinner, was our first meal on the ship. And then we headed out for the nocturnal rainforest walk. So again, everything we did required the groups get back on the canoe. Each canoe had an Adventures by Disney guide with us, as well as a local specialist that is part of the team from the boat. The boat also supplied big boots that we wore 90% of the time when headed off the boat for a little bit of safety structure. Again, we're talking about places that when we did get off of our motorized canoe, it was, pulling up on a patch of grass. We were walking through dirt and fields. There were not a lot of roadways and walkways to be had. One nocturnal rainforest walk was enough for me. When they spotted the snake, I was pretty done.
Yeah, but you just say the phrase nocturnal rainforest walk and people are like, wow. I mean, it is one of those things. I mean, you went through it, so it's a little bit different. But when you just hear that phrase, it kind of makes you
I'll
do a
send you
triple
some
take.
pictures.
Yeah.
We were definitely, we were greeted by the person's lands that we were on for that tribe. And there was a family living, right next to the part of the forest that we walked through.
Sure.
And I will admit, waking any person in the rainforest and letting them know I was there when the family dog came running up next to me, and I did not realize that it was just a dog because it came from behind. So
Sure.
you're ready for anything in the rainforest, and they tell us that.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
Definitely an experience. And then, we were going with, flashlights, the lights from your cell phone. And then again, the thing, and I definitely left this trip, I will say, a little different, I think, than others. I left with more zen than I think I've ever seen in my life. Because again, we finished in the rainforest, we got back on our motorized canoe, and besides the engine of our canoe and some birds, the only thing is water and moonlight. And so you just, even because of the way the seating is on the canoe, like, people really aren't chatting with each other. Sometimes the guide will talk to the group, but it's not all these side conversations going on. There is no Wi-Fi there. I'll say that up front. If you need to be connected to Wi-Fi 24/7, this is not for you.
It just the word zen, you just keep going back to it. It
really
sounds
was
just like it. Yeah.
I can't tell you the last time that I just sat outside and looked at the moon, which is what I was able to do on this ride back to the boat.
Very cool. All right. So we're all zenned out. That's day 2, right? But then we go into day 3. Where do we transition for there?
So I had my share of Zen between the dog and the snake. I was done. I took a hard pass on the early morning rainforest trek.
Okay.
Definitely different at dawn and daybreak, and dusk. But again, also keeping in mind you're constantly off and on these boats and really getting ready. Um, I waited till they came back. It was an early morning, and even if you weren't going, they kindly play about a 2.5 minute good morning wake up song into your room, followed by an announcement either that breakfast is in 15 minutes or that the excursion is leaving in 15 minutes and then breakfast is, an hour later when we get back.
Let me just ask one question here, because you've got the nocturnal rainforest, walk at night, and then you've got the early morning rainforest trek. It's not the same path. Is it the same path? Is it a different
It was
location?
not the same path.
Okay.
It was a little bit down in the forest.
Got it. Okay. All right. So you've got that going on. Then what?
Got that going on. I took a hard pass. We headed back out on our canoes.
Right.
Through the forest. Again, it's about taking in what you see. So sometimes you're seeing greenery. We saw multiple families of macaws, and yes, I've seen them fly at Animal Kingdom.
Sure.
It's not the same. That was like definitely a highlight for me. We did see an occasional monkey. We didn't see a lot in the water as we went. Lots of different types of birds pointed out to us. We then went fishing off of our boat. Again, we're in places where it's just so basic. They gave us a piece of wood, literally, like a 2-inch rectangular piece of wood.
Right.
With a piece of fishing wire that went around it about 200 times.
Right.
With a hook tied to the end. And I will swear last night's dinner leftover beef tartare on the end.
Sure.
For us to go fishing.
Okay. Did you catch that night's dinner? Was that what the impetus was?
That's what I was afraid of. I did not catch anything, but several on my boat did.
Right.
They took the fish in. They showed us the kinds of fish, the piranha's teeth. It was an experience.
Sure.
We then went over to a place called the Dolphin Lodge, where they served us lunch. And from there, they had a little beach area that you could go swimming in. They had kayaks, or if you weren't up for being that adventurous, they did take us back out in the motorized canoe to go for a little bit longer around the lake. And if you had family or friends kayaking, to be able to see them. We were in Lake Panachoka in the Yosemite National Park.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Yosemite that wants to come off your tongue.
No, not at all.
And so we were really out from right after breakfast till almost dinner time there.
And just all outdoors type of stuff,
all outdoors.
Boat ride,
did
fishing.
It rain on us? Yeah, it did at one point.
Yeah.
So again, this is not, let me look at architecture, let me see it. This is, I'm thrilled to be here in the wild.
Yeah.
I was actually with a friend who's a zoologist. Like, she
very cool, yeah.
was so excited with every little sighting we had, where I'm like, okay, that's the such and such bird for the 12th time.
Yeah, the Jersey girl doesn't have the same appreciation as the zoologist.
It's gotta be what it's gotta be for you.
Sure.
And you go from there.
So that segues you back into day 4 then.
Day 4, early morning, we head to the Parrot Lick, which is very clearly disclosed by Adventure by Disney as a place where you can see hundreds of parrots or 0. Parrots are not guaranteed at the Parrot Lick.
Because they fly.
There were 0.
Right.
Thankfully, to save our 6:15 a.m. boat departure for the Parrot Lick,
right.
About 25 feet away from the Parrot Lick, we saw 5 monkeys in the tree.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
definitely made up for it. head back to the ship, little bit of time on the ship, lunch on the ship, and then we headed out to a local community. An experience that everybody should have. Again, we hiked up the side of an embankment to get there, across a field. This community actually has a school. People in the community walk up to 2 hours each way to get to the school.
Wow.
And part of how the community makes their money is by different wood carvings that they did sell to us. And they also do farming. We had a chance to eat some things that they made for us, learn all about their community, and then we played a soccer game with some of the members of the community.
Oh, that's fun. That's very cool.
And again, you really see in their primitive bathrooms, I asked, where do they get some of the things when you look at some of their different dress for the kids and things? And there was this most adorable little girl who I did ask. She just kept coming back up to me and the brightest smile you've ever seen. And so I said, can I take a picture with her? Is that allowed? Never take pictures of locals without permission, please.
Sure.
They gave permission. I took a picture. I showed it to her on my cell phone, at which point I realized these people don't know what a cell phone is.
Yeah, they've never seen
They
it.
don't have cell phones. This girl was so excited to see her picture. She ran away screaming and giggling, came back a minute later, tapped me on her shoulder and said again, and had brought her brother with her. So I took a picture of the three of us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just so much fun.
Yeah.
And again, carve things, jewelry that if you went to a fair somewhere in the United States, you'd pay $40, $50, $60. They were asking for $8.
Yeah.
I paid $20 for 2 items that should have been $12, and they were overwhelmed when I said keep the change. Like, I felt like I got a bargain,
Sure.
and I was happy to help.
Well, that's very cool.
We headed back to the ship. We had an alfresco dinner, so dining outside as it was our last night. And then they went for a canopy walk, which I will admit I skipped. I did see some good pictures from there. The guides were very honest with me. It was over 250 steps in each direction, literal stairs, and with my knees, over 500 steps to up and down is
wasn't happening. Yeah,
not a win. And that is the end of night 4, which is really the end almost of your adventure, because day 5 comes, you're up and out early, and you're reversing what we did the first day. So they're loading all of our luggage on in the rain. We're taking our motorized canoes back, substantially longer to get back, even though we were closer at the time because we were going against the tide and you could definitely feel it.
Got it.
The drivers of the canoes are phenomenal, especially it's one thing when you're already on the boat, but there's a point about halfway between the boat and the city where they talk to us about the river rise and lowering, which happens 4 times a day apparently, and different seasons. Huh. And it's not a clear path. And they've got to really know the river and how the tide is going.
Sure.
To know where they can go. Because I don't want you to think, I talk about the river cruises and that the banks are narrow. Yes, you can see both sides here. But again, there was a huge bridge across it. I mean, these are big rivers down here. So leave the boat, get on a motorized canoe, get off, go to the bathrooms again, grab our box lunch that we take to the airport with us, wait in the airport for one of 2 planes that land. I'm going to show my age here with this. I felt like I was landing at Fantasy Island when that plane landed. Here's the runway and the people waving you in, literally waving with their arms, not all the orange stick people. and, down the stairs that they push up to the plane
Sure.
and walk across the tarmac to make it back to the terminal.
Yeah.
And unique for an adventure, the air back to Quito is included. But so your adventure really ends at the baggage carousel.
Yeah.
Little strange.
I mean,
I will
it just
say in
sounds
our
cool.
adventure, it was about 50-50 in people that flew home and people that went back to the Wyndham for their pre-night for the Galapagos that we'll talk about next week.
Well, I mean, I know you mentioned a little bit about the ship. You mentioned that it's small, that there were, only about 18 rooms. Is there anything else about the ship that you want to say before we kind of, wrap this one up? Because we went a little bit long tonight because
We went long
it's
tonight.
just so interesting, just so different. Is there anything that
I
you want
think
to say before we say
a
goodbye?
couple of key things. Because it is a small ship, because you're in the Amazon, well, the food was great. The food is extremely limited. And what I mean by that is this is tonight's appetizer. Here are the 2 entrees for dinner, and pick one at lunchtime so that they can prepare and be ready.
Sure.
This is tonight's dessert. Don't be looking for a big menu. There is no room service. There is a coffee station with coffee, tea, and hot chocolate, and a basket with prepackaged cookies 24/7. One of the things that I really missed from this is the entertainment that we usually see on a river cruise ship. There was no bingo at night or karaoke. There was no photo collage video on the last night. So they did do a kids thing at one point, but if you're looking to be entertained, I'll go back to Be Zen. This is not the highlight of entertainment.
No.
The other thing that I will say is because they consider this a short escape and a land adventure, even though it's on a river cruise, because there are only 2 guides, your guide gratuities are not included where they are on the European river cruises. But again, one of the things we like to do for our guests is on land adventures, we pay your guide gratuities. So that's a great way to get that covered. If you are looking for that Central America experience, and you'll hear next week more about the Galapagos, it's definitely a different type of literal animal from fish, birds, and monkeys versus seals and iguanas and tortoises, then this is the trip for you. If you're a sleep-in person, this is not the trip for you. If you're not into hiking and quiet, this is not the trip for you. If you're looking for your children to be entertained all day long without you, this is not the trip for you.
But conversely, if you are looking for all those things, it sounds like it's a dream.
It can be a great trip for the right people.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say, as much as I love Adventures by Disney, it is not a one-size-fits-all product.
Right.
We talk about Adventures being 4- and 5-star hotels, and while the rooms were 4- and 5-star, this is not a country where 4- and 5-star equates to 4- and 5-star in America.
Correct.
So this is a great trip for some people. This is not a great trip for everybody to say, I've completed all my trips.
Well, I was thoroughly entertained by hearing you explain the Zen nature of the trip. I'm sorry for folks that if in our Zen mindset we took a little bit long tonight, but I think it's a cool trip. I'm glad you got a chance to take it and share it with the rest of us. I'm looking forward to next week when we talk about the Galapagos. Have a great week.
You too. And before we close, I would be remiss if I didn't give a giant shout out to all my new Amazon friends that I met. I have made more friends from places all over the U.S. So those of you in PA, Virginia, Maryland, Washington, I hope we adventure together again one day.
That is something about these adventures. You always do seem to connect with the people that you travel with. So that's a cool little wrinkle too. Have a great one.
You too.
And that's a wrap this week on Let's Talk Diz. If anyone you know could benefit from this or any show, please share, have them like, and subscribe. And don't forget to reach out to the folks at Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services for any Disney destination planning. Make it a great week, and as always, keep making memories.